Let's talk about a force that works in total silence, a kind of pressure that builds up without any warning. This is the architecture of fatigue. And we're not just talking about steel and concrete here, we're looking at it as a metaphor for the hidden stress that can weaken any system from the inside out.
You know, this is where the story of a disaster so often begins, with this feeling of calm, the belief that everything is stable. But it's a really dangerous illusion, because the threats that can truly unravel a system, they're almost always the ones we can't see.
So, let's start right there, with that unseen force. This is the invisible weight that every system has to carry, day in and day out. On the surface, everything seems normal, right? The traffic keeps flowing, things appear to be running smoothly. But just beneath that calm veneer, these continuous, repetitive pressures are always at work. Every little cycle, every small load is subtly changing the very nature of the system. It's sowing the seeds of its own failure, quietly.
Okay, so what happens when all that internal stress just can't be contained anymore? Well, that's when we get to the first cracks. This is the stage where the damage starts to become physical, even if it's still completely hidden from sight.
Now, what you've really got to understand is what this definition means. Structural fatigue isn't about one single huge event. It's not about one giant impact. It's about the accumulation, the buildup of countless small, seemingly harmless loads over a very long time. It's like the slow drip of water that eventually wears away the stone.
And here's how that insidious process plays out. It starts with just repeated loading, the daily grind. This constant pressure starts to create these tiny, microscopic flaws, cracks that are just impossible to see with the naked eye. But they don't stay that way. With every new cycle of stress, these cracks start to connect, they link up, and they grow, forming this hidden network of weakness deep inside the material. All of that damage, accumulating bit by bit, inevitably leads to this, a slow, quiet decay, a gradual loss of strength that happens completely out of sight.
So here's why that's so crucial. Each of those tiny cracks does more than just create a little hole. It actually becomes a point of stress concentration. It acts like a tiny wedge, focusing all the pressure of a load right onto its sharp little tip. And as these points multiply, they slowly chip away at the system's ability to handle the load it was designed for in the first place.
Just look at these numbers. This makes it real. A structure starts out at 100% of its strength. But after, say, 1 million cycles, it might be down to 85%. After 5 million, maybe only 60%. And the crazy thing is, it looks the same. It feels the same from the outside. But it's not. It is fundamentally, dangerously weaker.
And this brings us to the big question, doesn't it? The science can tell us what's happening to the material, but it can't tell us when that breaking point will actually come. To answer that question, we have to shift our focus away from the material itself and onto the people who are supposed to be watching it.
And this, really, is what it all comes down to. The ultimate breakdown is rarely just about metal or concrete. It's a failure of human process, a failure of awareness. It is a failure of attention.
This is the critical human error we all make. We build something, we check it, we say it's safe, and then we just assume it's going to stay safe. We forget about those slow, quiet processes of decay. We stop looking for the microcracks because, honestly, for a long time, there's nothing to see. We fall into this dangerous complacency.
We're really at a fork in the road here, and the outcome is a choice. On one path, we neglect monitoring. The quiet decay just continues, escalating invisibly until one day it can't be ignored anymore. But on the other path, regular inspection brings that hidden damage out into the light. It lets us intervene, to make repairs, to stop the escalation. So you see, catastrophe isn't inevitable. It's the direct result of choosing that first path instead of the second.
So what's the big lesson here? What should we really take away from this whole architecture of fatigue? Well, it all comes down to the danger of silence.
This is it. This is the whole idea. The loud failures, the ones that come with alarms and flashing lights and warning signs, those are easy to react to. But the quiet failures, the gradual erosion of standards, the slow decay of a relationship, the unseen cracks in a foundation, those are the ones that blindside us. Their danger is in their lack of drama. They don't scream for our attention, so we don't give it to them.
And that really just leaves us with a final thought. This idea, this concept of structural fatigue, it applies to so much more than just engineering. So the question to ask ourselves is this:
What quiet failures are building up around us? What invisible weights are we carrying? What micro cracks are accumulating in our systems, in our projects, or maybe even in our own lives, simply because on the surface, everything still looks safe?